Frequently asked question number 16. Can we put the cutting straight away into the soil without letting it callus? Now guys, I have done this before wherein I tried to experiment. I did the cutting, like let's say that this is a cutting. I had done the cutting and I straight away put it in dry soil. Now when I'm talking about dry soil, it was completely bone dry. Now after let's say around 2 to 3 days, I noticed that the stem where I had cut, it started to turn darker in color. And that's when I realized that even though the soil is completely bone dry, the cutting was not calloused, and there are some things in the soil. I'm not very sure whether it's the good bacteria or bad bacteria. There are a lot of microbes in the soil. Probably that might have affected the cutting. I'm not very sure. So that is the reason why I always suggest let the cutting callus before putting it into the soil. I have experimented it before. I chopped off the succulent and without letting it to callus, I put it in bone dry soil. Remember, bone dry, it was completely dry, not even a single drop of water and no moisture at all, because that was during the summers. The soil was completely bone dry. Even after all that, the stem started to rot. It started to turn darker in color. Probably there was something in the soil. So always whenever you're doing a cutting, it will just take 2 to 3 days for the cut to callus. Ensure that the cut is completely calloused and then put it in the soil. And when you're putting it into the soil has to be completely bone dry, because our cuttings do not have roots yet. So you have to keep it in mind. To be on the safer side, I would suggest do the cutting, let it to callus for 2 to 3 days, and then just keep it aside on a dry surface until the roots appear. Once the roots appear, you can go ahead and put it into the soil. So this was asked a couple of times, that can we just do the stem cutting and put it directly into the soil, because at times we forget where we have kept the succulent. Now I wouldn't say that's a very good idea, because you have to let the cut callus. It's very important to close the wound before you put it into the soil. Probably once it's calloused, if you are very mindful, you can put it into the soil, ensuring that you're not going to water that pot until the roots appear. But ideally, if you're going to ask my advice, if you're doing a stem cutting, let it callus for at least 2 to 3 days. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and thank you so much for watching.